with the Shakespeare play. Could you give us a brief synopsis of the film?
Coriolanus is based on a Shakespeare play, and it's about a Roman general named Coriolanus who wins a major battle and then gets caught up in politics, where the people of Rome want him to run for senator. And he does, and the world of politics is very complicated for him personally, and he ends up betraying his country and joining with his arch enemy to take on the Roman state.
What inspired you to get involved with this film?
Well, I've always loved Shakespeare, and the reason I'm a writer today is when I was 8 years old, my dad made me sit down with him and watch a movie on TV, and I didn't want to do it. I mean, who wants to watch a movie with their dad? You know, it was a beautiful sunny day, and I said, well, what is it? And he said, don't ask, but it's got ghosts and a sword fight. And it was Hamlet. It was the Laurence Olivier version of Hamlet. And it changed my life because I thought it was so exciting and mysterious and thrilling, and it had that incredible language. So from the time I was 8, I just loved Shakespeare. And I went to see it as much as I could, and I tried to read it. You know, and Shakespeare's challenging. It's hard to read Shakespeare. You have to work at it. It's like music, you're not familiar with it, and you've become familiar with it. But it's worth it, you know, and there's a reason 400 years after this play was written that we're still doing it and people are still watching it.
What are the biggest challenges you faced when bringing Coriolanus to the big screen using Shakespeare's original language?
Right. I think it's very relevant for young people because it's about personal compromise. It's about when you bend and when you don't bend. Because Coriolanus is sort of an intensely serious and pure thinker. He's very prideful about himself, and he doesn't want to compromise at all. And he finally does, with disastrous consequences. So I think it's really an interesting examination for when you compromise and when you don't. And certainly the landscape of the film is incredibly contemporary because, you know, we filmed in Serbia, but if you look at the Balkans, if you look at Egypt, if you look at Chechnya, there's so much insecurity and political instability and economic instability now that is very relevant to what Shakespeare was writing about, because Shakespeare was creating a Rome that is very similar to ours. So when we started working on the movie, we thought we wanted it to be very modern as it could be. So all the familiar trappings of traditional Shakespeare, the doublet, the hose, the swords, we don't do any of that. You know, our movie has cell phones and video cameras and M16s and tanks because we wanted to make it a movie about 2011, 2012, 2013. We wanted to make it about now.
How did you modernize the story to make it relevant to today's audience?
It was challenging because Shakespeare's play is very dense and very long. It's one of his longest plays. So what we had to do is sort of bring it down to a movie, bring it down to the size and shape of a movie, which meant cutting a lot of Shakespeare's text. Because uncut, the play runs about 3.5 hours, which we thought was a bit much for a movie. So we focused it around the character of Coriolanus. We focused it very tightly around his and his particular story. And we all love the language of Shakespeare. It's the reason that we all do it, because there's something so exciting about it. But we had to be brutal. We had to be brutal with the language and brutal with ourselves to remember that we're making a movie for a modern movie house audience and not just recreating a play.
Could you tell us about the screenwriting and production of this film?
Well, they're very different because being a writer is fully creative. It's about engaging with Ralph Fiennes, the director, and the other actors, and figuring out the best way to tell the story. And it's sort of an exalted, fun job. It's what I wake up every morning to do. Whereas producing is a harder job in a way because it's about raising the money to get the movie made. And honestly, this was a very difficult movie to get made because Shakespeare tends to be a little off-putting, and Coriolanus is not a particularly well-known play, and it was Ralph Fiennes' directing debut. So, you know, when I put on my producer hat, it was about doing all the things that were necessary to protect Ralph's vision of the movie, to protect the movie, and to get it made in the first place.
Do you have any film recommendations for film clubbers aged 8 to 17?
When I was a kid, my favorite movie was called North by Northwest, and it's this movie by Alfred Hitchcock. He was a great, great filmmaker, great director. And what I love about North by Northwest is it's an incredible adventure, but it also has real comedy and romance to it. And to me, it's almost the perfect movie in the way all the pieces come together.